Newly obtained documents show Aurora police warned a landlord about a growing gang problem at their property, told him to keep the place from falling apart. Boulder's homeless shelter prepares to cut their number of beds at a time they're turning people away at record rates.
You're saying to someone, I don't have a critical service that I can provide for you, and that's heartbreaking.
As Donald Trump outlines which of his opponents he wants arrested when he's reelected, we learned the Trump team circulated the idea of arresting one particular Coloradan over 2020 election lies. Your good news, week 404, no error, we found it again.
Oh, good news about beavers.
Something to chew on tonight on Next. Well before claims about a migrant gang at an apartment complex in Aurora went viral, long before former President Donald Trump came to town falsely claiming that Aurora had been conquered, Aurora police were warning that apartment's owners that their rundown property was a magnet for criminals. Our 9 News Investigates team has obtained a series of documents outlining the months before the city made its unprecedented decision to close Fitzsimmons Place apartments near Colfax and Nome. As Chris Vanderveen explains, police and the property owners knew of this growing problem.
When it comes to scrutiny, few apartments in Colorado have received more than this one, Fitzsimmons Place near Colfax and Nome. The city closed it in August. Since then, its reputation has gone national in scope. But records we obtained suggest a backstory not as well documented. The legal effort to close the building actually began in September of last year when the city deemed the building a nuisance property that had seen a 30% increase in crime since the owner purchased the property in 2019. The city didn't close it then, but a month later, a now retired police officer told the listed owners, Zev Baumgarten and Nome Partners LLC, the property had a gang problem. This apartment has almost become a badge of honor for them. He never mentioned a gang name. He went on to discuss a shooting in which the families of the gang member suspects took pictures of each and every resident they could. They used the pictures to extort them and tell them if they spoke to police, not only would they be harmed, their families back in Venezuela would also be harmed. Again, no mention of a gang name. In April, the back and forth continued. The city took a bunch of pictures of broken windows, cars with no plates in the parking lot, and shopping carts everywhere. The city's manager of licensing advised the owners, "Police and I recommend 24-hour security monitoring." He also said, "The city is not responsible for running the complex, and it has been made abundantly clear what needs to and should be happening on a daily basis." The city even offered to have Aurora police officers work day shifts with an hour rate to help. It's not clear if the owners ever took them up on the offer. Chris Vanderveen, 9 News.
None of the documents we obtained mentions the now infamous Tren de Aragua gang out of Venezuela. The owners have said that gang ran their employees off the property. Mesa County's Republican clerk says her team is looking at all of the mail-in ballots they've received to see if a voter fraud scheme went beyond the dozen fraudulent ballots already identified. And she expressed frustration that Colorado's Democratic Secretary of State came out and announced that investigation yesterday when an arrest has not yet been made. The 12 suspect ballots were flagged by a sorting computer because the signatures on the outside of the envelopes didn't match voter signatures on file. But then a human election judge approved 3 of the ballot signatures as accurate. So that allowed the ballots to be counted, and there's no way to track them and uncount them now. Republican clerk Bobby Gross tells us those ballots were stolen from voters of various party affiliations, Democrat, Republican, unaffiliated. But she doesn't know which candidates the voter fraud was supposed to benefit because those 9 uncounted fraudulent ballots were not opened. That does not happen until the signatures on the outside are verified.
All of those ballots are not opened because they didn't make it through the process, so they are never unsealed. And so those will go into evidence with the district attorney.
The district attorney is Republican Dan Rubenstein, who just finished a successful prosecution of the former Republican Mesa County clerk, Tina Peters. She was convicted of felonies for tampering with the election system in that county in her unsuccessful search for election rigging. Peters was sentenced to 9 years. Donald Trump is expanding today on the list of critics and opponents that he says will be arrested if he is reelected, as we also learn from evidence in an ongoing lawsuit that the Trump team circulated the idea of arresting one specific Coloradan, a man who is accused without evidence of rigging the 2020 election. Trump continues to falsely claim that the 2020 election was rigged against him, and today Trump repeated that lie on Truth Social, saying that when he wins, people who cheated will be, quote, caught and prosecuted at levels unfortunately never before seen in our country. Trump said those targeted for arrest would include lawyers, political operatives, and political donors. Court documents, first reported this week by CNN, reveal that Trump's inner circle passed around the idea of arresting an executive for Denver-based Dominion voting systems right after the 2020 election. That Coloradan, Eric Coomer, is now suing a number of far-right figures who forced him into hiding with their accusations that he personally rigged the election. Filings in one of those defamation cases shows that Trump allies Michael Flynn and Sidney Powell forwarded a suggestion that Eric Coomer should be arrested immediately. Claim about Coomer came from a Republican podcaster and activist in Colorado who to this day refuses to provide proof. And Flynn acknowledged in a deposition he has never seen any such evidence of Dominion rigging the election.
Have you seen any evidence that you would consider credible, Mr. Flynn, that Eric Coomer played a role in rigging the 2020 presidential election? Yes or no?
I have not, no.
Trump's threat to arrest his opponents for election rigging is not new. Today's social media post echoes wording that Trump has used in the past, although his pledge to use force against American citizens recently escalated to threats to use the U.S. military against quote-unquote radical left lunatics. Boulder's homeless shelter is turning away people who need help. Shelter says it doesn't have enough beds, and rather than expanding, it's actually preparing to cut services. Our Evan Krugel explains why.
As the heat of summer fades into the chill of fall, places that provide warmth are becoming busier.
Traditionally, we see a higher demand as the winter months approach.
Michael Block says capacity at the All Roads Boulder shelter is 180 people, a number they regularly hit. This year, they're on pace to turn away more people than ever before.
You're saying to someone, I don't have a critical service that I can provide for you, and that's heartbreaking.
Michael says they need more beds and more services. Instead, they're preparing to cut them after the county announced plans to reduce nonprofit grant funding by 36% next year, from around $12 million to just under $8 million.
I don't think that we can possibly absorb the size of the cut that we've received and not have it affect our nightly capacity.
County commissioners say the shelter is not alone.
The loss of funding is going to mean a reduction in services.
Claire Levy says a decrease in state and federal funding, including the end of COVID money, left them with no other choice.
We have so many people for whom the cost of living just exceeds their ability to pay those expenses. And when the safety net isn't there to make up the difference, there's real suffering that happens as a result of that.
At the shelter, Michael says All Roads is at a crossroads.
It is as critical a moment, I think, in terms of our ability to maintain the level of services we provide as any that I've faced in my 17 years here.
The end of October often signals the start of the season of giving. Donations, Michael says, are now more critical than ever.
If we get more funds, if this season of giving is really successful, if the community stands up and makes up the difference, for instance, we'll be able to provide more services and the cuts will be less impactful. And so we're crossing our fingers.
The county says it's not cutting any other funding sources for the shelter, but Michael says without those grants, they'll need to cut about 11.5% of their budget, with those cuts likely beginning on January 1st. Kyle.
I mean, that's right in the middle of the cold winter, obviously devastating for them. A lot of these nonprofits that are losing pass-through ARPA funds. It's coming like not only the cold winter, but right around the holidays too, which is really tough.
Bad timing, and it's coming pretty quickly. They say they were notified back in February that cuts could be coming, but they just recently found out how big they'll be. As you mentioned, that is their busiest time of year traditionally, not the time you want to be cutting beds when demand is so high.
All right, Evan, thank you very much. There is a nonprofit in northern Colorado that kept nearly 2 million pounds out of food. 2 million pounds of food out of landfills last year. Some of it went to other nonprofits who could help feed people, and some of it went directly to Coloradans through their no-cost market. This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports the food rescue program Vindicate. They rescue food that is still good to eat, but for some reason it is no longer sellable for grocery stores or bakeries or farms or even truckers who have a load of food, something's gone wrong. Vindicate's team picks it up, they sort out what is still healthy and safe to eat, and then they offer that food at no cost to the public through their 3 times a week market. And Vindicate also distributes that free food to dozens of other nonprofits that could use it. They don't buy food, they don't compete with food banks. They are just a last line of defense against food waste, and a great way to feed our neighbors in northern Colorado. They served 120,000 people last year. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to get that link to donate. And almost 3,500 of you have signed up to simplify your giving by making a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. It's just a lot less work. You put in your info once, we split it up among all the nonprofits that we feature. And that's meant starting recent campaigns with $24,000 in donations per week. The future of Denver's last remaining slaughterhouse is up to voters this November.
My good news is I just got 4 new tires on my clown car.
There you go. It's Friday. What do you say we take life a little bit less seriously for just a moment? We'll do that next. Buried in all the political texts and ads that Denver voters are seeing, they are also getting messages about animal rights. That's because voters are about to decide the fate of the city's only slaughterhouse and whether to ban fur sales. Denver Ballot Issue 309 asks voters whether slaughterhouses should be banned within city limits. A yes vote would shut down the city's only remaining slaughterhouse. It's the employee-owned Superior Farms lamb processing facility near the Western Stock Show complex. It would put the facility's employees out of work by early 2026, although the ballot initiative also calls for them to be prioritized in new workforce training programs. This was put on the ballot by an activist group, Pro-Animal Future, which argues that factory farming operations are bad for animals, employees, and the surrounding communities. Opponents, like the Colorado Livestock Association, say the closure would have a devastating impact on local ranchers and the domestic food supply.
309 aims to spark the gradual evolution away from intensive animal farming, starting at the local level here in Denver. Denver is home to the largest industrial lamb slaughterhouse in the entire country. It's the picture of the worst way of treating animals.
It would basically undo 100 years worth of animal raising in the sheep industry in the state of Colorado across the board, because you've taken away that production capacity, that ability to produce and render this meat for food.
Pro-Animal Future is also behind Denver Ballot Issue 308, which seeks to ban the manufacturing, sale, distribution, or display of animal fur products within the city limits. Now, there are some exceptions for things like secondhand sales or for Native American tribes using fur products for, quote, traditional, tribal, cultural, and spiritual purposes. Animal rights advocates say they are continuing what's just a growing push to phase out factory farming. Opponents, including farming and ranching advocacy groups and the National Western Stock Show, worry about the economic impact on the ag industry and indigenous fur sellers. A Colorado-based company is getting paid some significant change to set up, quote, methane hunting lasers near oil and gas hubs in Larimer and Weld counties. Longpath Technologies out of Boulder is getting a $160 million federal loan to install technology to monitor methane emissions near 20,000 oil and gas sites. The project calls for the installation of 1,000 monitoring towers, which will use laser technology to scan the air for methane molecules. The Biden administration says the towers could help offset the emissions of 1.3 million gas-powered vehicles each year, while also helping oil and gas producers detect leaks faster. The project is also expected to bring nearly 300 jobs to the region. What we expect weather-wise, meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen, is a warmer weekend, then the fall cool comes.
Yeah, exactly. In this fall forecast, we've got a little bit of summer and a little bit of winter. So hopefully you enjoyed fall today. That's what I consider today was a really nice fall day. Tomorrow we'll warm things up here into the 70s along the Front Range. A little bit warmer than we're used to, even in the mountains in the 50s and 60s. And that's going to help maintain our lead for the warmest October we've ever experienced here in Denver. The next 3 days are going to be really warm, but we'll finish kind of cool with the last 3 days. So we're projecting the final average to be in second place, just below 1950. Second warmest October we've ever had here in Denver. Area of high pressure keeping us pretty much warm and dry for the next 3 days until about Tuesday afternoon. We'll start to feel the impacts of this winter storm system coming in. Going to come across Colorado. Winter conditions in the mountains first, and then sliding down onto the Front Range. Early look at your snow accumulation here. We could get a pretty good hit in some parts of our mountains with more than a foot of snow. Still watching Wednesday morning for the potential for some snow here in Denver. Models are not too enthusiastic about actual accumulation, but we may get some. You see those impact days there potentially on Tuesday and Wednesday, and it looks like Halloween got skated once again by the winter storm this year.
Giraffes are my favorite animals, and I get to be a giraffe all day today.
No need to stick your neck out to tell us your good news, buddy. Just do it. Our favorite Friday tradition, next. Halloween is next week, but if your kid needs practice, you can take him to the Children's Museum anytime. That's where we went, in search of the good news headlines in the lives of our neighbors.
We're celebrating our Harvest Hoot Fall Festival. My good news is that my family's coming into town to visit next week.
My good news is I got engaged last weekend.
My good news is being able to give some time and volunteer at the museum, spread a little Halloween joy for the 10th year in a row.
My good news is I just got 4 new tires on my clown car, and so I'm really happy about that.
My good news is my birthday's coming up.
My good news is that I got a 90 on my econ midterm, and that's good news to me because I worked really hard and I studied, and I went to a lot of my teacher's office hours, so it took a lot of work, and I'm proud that it paid off.
It was my birthday and I had a wonderful celebration with my friends and I ate delicious Italian food. Oh, good news about beavers.
Giraffes are my favorite animals, and I get to be a giraffe all day today.
Beavers' teeth are always growing like human fingernails, and I thought that was amazing.
I thought they were going to leave us hanging on the beaver news. I didn't know if we were going to find it out. That's Kevin. He produces the 9 o'clock show here. Rare guest appearance. Back with your feedback next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is for all you Denverites who know too well the city's year-long lead pipe replacement project. I literally laughed out loud at this one. This is one of those if you know, you know. There's a Halloween display in West Highlands that pays tribute to those crews that go yard to yard, ripping out the old lead pipe and putting in the new, safer stuff. That is exactly what it looks like. They cut the hole in the front yard and they put up the cones, and it's great. If you see something that just looks and feels like Colorado to you, email it to us, next@9news.com, or now you can text next 303-871-1491. You can also just text and say hello. You can text it and send feedback. People do that. It's a good way to get something off your chest. Jerry says, Kyle's always laid back, calm, cool, and collected, and knows just how to throw it back at these people. If you're talking about feedback, Jerry, people bless me with the feedback, then I bless their heart in return. I'll see you next time.